Hi, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of Google Hangouts On Air Partners Edition. My name's Izzy, and I'm joining you here from our studio in Mountain View, California. And I'm so excited to give you guys a refresher and get you ramped up for the display exam. And just as a reminder, this is a live and interactive session, so feel free to submit questions throughout, and I'll get to them at the end. We have a pretty packed agenda today because we have a lot to refresh you guys on to prepare you for this exam. So some of the things that we're going to cover are, at a very basic level, what is the Google Display Network, how to set up a display campaign, how to show your ads on the display network, and then how to reach audiences in the display network. And lastly, how to measure and optimize your display campaign. All right, so let's start on a pretty basic level here. What is the Google Display Network, you might be wondering? Well, it's a very vast network that includes sites like Google Finance, Gmail, Blogger, YouTube. You name it, it's probably on the Google Display Network. And on the Google Display Network, you can serve a host of ads, text ads, video ads, image ads, even rich media ads. And again, it's this large collection of websites and even includes mobile apps and video content. So it's incredibly vast. And with that comes a host of possibilities. And just to give you a sense of just how big it is, the Google Display Network reaches about 90% of internet users worldwide and includes more than 2 million publisher sites like the New York Times or weather.com. So yeah, you could say it's pretty big. And so we have the display network and we have the option to create display campaigns, and I'll get more into that in a little bit. But first I want to kind of give you guys an overview of what the auction looks like on the display network. So in any AdWords circumstance, AdWords uses an auction to determine which ads show and the order in which those ads will appear, and then how much those ads will ultimately cost you. And just as a reminder, ads are ranked among, and served based on things like ad rank, quality score, max CPC, and so on. Let me break this down in a little example for you guys, just to sort of illustrate how serving works in the ad auction in the display network. So let's say we have 3 advertisers. We've got Alice, Bob, and Charlie. Alice is offered a $3 max CPC bid and has an impressive quality score of 10. Now, that's the highest, so Alice is in a good spot. And then we have Bob, who is similar to Alice, paying $3 and has a quality score of 9. Also good, but not quite as good as Alice's quality score of 10. And then lastly, we have Charlie. Charlie has a max CPC of $1 and has a quality score of 10. Also impressive. So which of these advertisers' ad is going to be shown? Well, in this case, it's Alice because she has that max CPC of 3 and quality score of 10. So just illustrating that both your bid and your quality score really matter and affect where you're going to serve. And more importantly, if you're even going to serve at all. So really important that you take those 2 things into consideration, bid and quality score. All right, so as we're talking about the display network and display campaigns, I want to introduce you guys to one type of display campaign that you may or may not be familiar with. This is what's known as Search Network with Display Select. It's previously abbreviated as SNDS, or commonly abbreviated as such. And it's a great kind of best of both worlds, if you will. In terms of campaign types. You get sort of a combination of the display network as well as the search network. So what this means is with an SNDS campaign, your ads can serve on both search and display. And if this campaign sounds of interest to you, when you're setting up your campaign, you can select it as a campaign type here, as illustrated in the image on the screen. And again, this is a great way to get the best of both worlds if you're not really sure what campaign type is best for you. All right, so we've kind of been talking about some campaign types, what the display network is, and what kind of ads we have available. But what I want to show you guys is how we go about actually setting up a display network campaign. And this will be really useful to you as you're just reorienting yourselves with these concepts as you prepare for the exam. All right, so The cool thing is when you set up a display campaign, you get to specify your marketing objective. Now, granted, the marketing objective is going to vary depending on the business, but some of the three ones that we have available are to build awareness, to influence consideration, and to drive action. And you may be wondering, do I even have to set a marketing objective? You don't have to, but we do have these three available, and they tend to fit into the marketing objectives of most businesses. So depending on what you really want to do and what you want to come out of this campaign, we do have objectives to cater to this. So just a couple of examples of all of these. To build awareness, this is a great way to introduce customers to what it is you offer, and to also just build that brand awareness on the web. As far as influence consideration goes, this is a great way to influence customers before they act, especially if they're considering a variety of options. And lastly, drive action. This is a great way if you're really concerned about those conversions and really trying to win customers or have them fulfill a specific type of conversion action, like signing up for your newsletter or submitting an interest form on your site. And another thing to note too, when you set up a campaign, after you sort of set your marketing objective, you'll be asked to specify things like bid type, ad schedule, and other settings. And this is all done on the campaign level. But we'll get more into this in a second. Okay, cool. So we've specified our marketing objective and we're just building our campaign from the beginning stages. The next thing we want to focus on is deciding what kind of flexible bid strategy we want and is in line with our marketing objectives. And there's 4 really great flexible bid strategies that we have available, and they're all great options depending on what it is you're really looking to do. So I'll give you guys a little bit of an overview of each one and talk about it a little bit in depth. So let's start with enhanced cost per click. And just as a disclaimer, for the first 2 I'm going to talk about, enhanced cost per click, or otherwise known as ECPC, and target CPA, these are contingent on having conversion data. So let me get into enhanced cost per click. So this is a great automatic flexible bid strategy that automatically adjusts your manual CPC bid on each click's likelihood to result in a conversion. Similar, we have target CPA, which is also automatic. And this sets your bids to help get as many conversions as possible while still reaching your average cost per acquisition goal. So CPA, like I said, you definitely need conversion data here, but it's a better bid strategy if you're really concerned about driving those specific conversions. And then the last 2, also great options. We have maximize clicks, which is a great bid strategy. And again, all of these are automated, so they're pretty hands-off, which is great. But maximize clicks sets your bids to get the most clicks within a target spend amount. So if you're just concerned about clicks, maximize clicks is going to be the bid strategy for you. And then the last one is target return on ad spend. So this is pretty obvious based on the title, but the idea is that we automatically set your bids to maximize your conversion value while trying to reach an average return on ad spend. So if you're an agency and you're really concerned about getting that ROI, definitely consider this option. But again, these are all great. It just depends on what it is you're really looking to achieve here and what your end goals are. All right, cool. So we've talked about bids and structure. I now want to introduce you guys to some really helpful tools that we have available to really help inform this entire process for you. A great one, if you've never checked it out before, is the Display Planner. The Display Planner is great because it helps generate targeting ideas and impression estimates and takes into account things like historical costs. And it provides ideas for display network targeting methods, like I said, impression estimates, and taking into account like historical costs and estimates on how ideas may perform. And it's available in the interface, so absolutely worth it to check out just to kind of complement your planning and creation of your campaign to ensure that it's set up for success. So in addition to the Display Planner, another great tool that we have available to help set you guys up for success is something known as the ad gallery. And this is essentially our ad creation tool. So this can save you a lot of costs that it might take to sort of outsource ads to an agency to create. But again, this is the benefits of this ad gallery. Well, first, it allows you to make all kinds of great ads, dynamic ads, Lighthouse ads, video ads, Gmail ads, and so on. We'll get into some of these ad types here in a minute. But it's a great way, it's a great cost-effective way. There's no cost to using these ad templates, and really allows you to customize different ad styles. And what you ultimately get as a result of using the ad gallery are industry standard ad templates. So a great free on-hand resource that we have that you guys should absolutely be taking advantage of. Great. So I really want to hone in some tips for creating effective display ads. And again, to really help set you guys up for success. So the first thing is to effectively use your ad text, images, and color schemes. I always want to, I encourage you guys to think about yourself as a user and what ads you are gravitated to click on. And, put yourself in the user's shoes. Ask yourself, would I want to click on this ad? Does this seem relevant to me? And so on that note, we strongly encourage you to experiment with different ads and designs, as different users do gravitate towards different ad copy. So make sure that your text is compelling, your images are compelling, but you're also sort of experimenting too, as your users can gravitate towards different things. We also encourage you guys to create your own custom images if that's something that's of value to you. Again, all of this is going to depend on the business at hand and the specific creatives you guys are looking to have your users see. But we really want to have you guys create quality ads. So we strongly recommend that you take advantage of our ad gallery tool. Another thing that people tend to take for granted is to really highlight a call to action. So if you, as a user, if you want your users to fill out a form or do something, make that very clear from the ad so they know exactly what they're getting themselves into. Don't dilly-dally, just really get to the point with these ads, because it may only just be a second that your users have to even look at it. And also too, don't shy away from including things like prices, promotions, exclusive specials you're having. Have it all really evident so you can really capture and draw in your users. So on a more granular level too, really important that you guys take advantage of things like our free features like ad extensions. So if you have a text ad in the display network, for example, make sure that you're using things like site links and call out extensions, review extensions, location extensions, call extensions, all of those wonderful extensions that we have available to really enhance your ads to the fullest degree and give the users the most information possible at that time. And there's also automated extensions as well that you can look into. So I always say the more the merrier approach. Give the users as much information as possible. Great. So another great campaign type available, another great display campaign type available is a universal app campaign. So if you have an app, this is a campaign that you can use to help drive more downloads and really draw more attention and traffic to your app. And this campaign type is great because it's fairly automated, so you don't have to do a lot of work on the creation end. And AdWords will really help you here customize targeting, ads, and keywords. So if you have an app and you're not using this campaign type already, strongly recommend it, especially too because mobile is huge now. Just about everyone is using their smartphone these days, so don't want to miss out on any of this potential traffic. And again, if you want to use this particular campaign, you can specify this in the campaign creation phase under campaign type, as seen in the little illustration here. Great. So want to go over a couple of ad formats. I mentioned this earlier just to kind of give you guys a greater sense of the options that we have available, because obviously there are a lot of options as well as places that your ads can serve. So the ones that I want to go into here are dynamic display ads as well as Lighthouse ads. Dynamic display ads are personalized ads that show products users have visited on your site already. So let me just give you an example. Say I'm shopping around for a new pair of ski boots. I go on your site, I look at the boots, and then the next day I'm browsing the web. A dynamic display ad would be an ad served to me with those same ski boots that I was looking at. So incredibly personalized, incredibly relevant. And if you have a shopping campaign, it's a dynamic remarketing campaign with these dynamic display ads, like I just gave you an example of, is an incredibly complementary force as it's so personalized and specific to that user. So really strong option there. The second one is what's known as a Lightbox ad. And Lightbox ads are basically a suite of interactive rich media formats. And these ads are great because users can really interact with them in a way that they can't with other ad formats. And these ads can be like a video carousel, an interactive game, or a catalog. So Lightbox ads are a great way to sort of take it to the next level with your users, and if you really want to drive engagement. And also, they're just pretty fun too. And lastly, this is really important as I'm talking about all of this, be really aware of our policies in general. I want to make sure that as you guys are also creating your ads and thinking about your campaigns, that you do keep in mind our editorial and professional requirements. So be really clear with what you're promoting, professional and useful. So for example, don't have ads with more than one exclamation point or misuse of symbols, or also even having something like a false button in your image that's intended to potentially deceive people. So definitely look at our policies and keep in mind the requirements and the standards that we have our advertisers require them to uphold. All right, so let's kind of go into depth here about showing our ads on the display network and some of the great targeting options that we have available. Great. So I want to go over a couple targeting settings on the display network and what's known as managed placements. So I want to give you two options that we have available when you're specifying these settings. The first one is what's known as target and bid, and the second one is known as bid only. So target and bid restricts your ads to targeting the methods you've selected, and it lets you set your bids for individual targeting, and based on your display keywords, your ads can show on pages based on your keyword. The second option, known as bid only, doesn't restrict your ads based on targeting as much compared to target and bid, and it really lets you set your bids for individual targeting. So if you're concerned with just a straight and narrow form of individual targeting, bid only is going to be the option for you. And then there are some other options too we just want to put on your radar. You can also set your display keywords to target and bid. And you can also set things like interest in remarketing to bid only. So there's a variety of combinations that you can use here. And our Help Center articles do go into some great examples, as this can go a variety of ways depending on your targeting methods and what it is and who it is, more importantly, that you're really trying to target your ads to. And just want to go into depth here about what's known as managed placements. On a really simple level, managed placements refer to the websites that your ads appear on. And these are on the display network, obviously. So if you know a website that your customers visit, you can add it as a managed placement. So, if you know that your customers are on cat lover websites and you are selling really customized cat beds, you could add those as managed placements. So great option if you really know your customers and where they're kind of lurking about on the internet, and you really want to have a great level of control over where those ads are serving. And another thing too to just keep in mind is that DoubleClick Ad Exchange is a partnership that we have with the Google Display Network for buying and selling advertising. So it's also another market for advertisers to show their ads to a wider audience. So the point is, we have a really vast network of places where your ads can serve and a variety of targeted methods to make sure that your ads are ultimately catered to the right audience. Great. So as we're setting up our campaign, one thing I want you guys to make sure that you pay attention to and don't forget is negative keywords and languages. So you guys may know from a standard search campaign, just as important as keywords are, negative keywords are equally as important. The idea behind negative keywords is we really want to prevent our ads from showing on websites that aren't relevant to us. So you can really specify this in the negative keywords section, the keyword section of your display network campaign. And again, what you would put in here is ultimately up to you, but going back to my cat example, if I don't want to serve on websites having to do anything to do with dogs, I would probably want to add dogs or puppies as a negative keyword. So completely depends, but if you're really confident there are certain places you don't want to serve or, contexts, add them as negative keywords. And this will help ensure that your ads are serving to the most relevant people possible. And similar to, you can also specify language targeting to choose the languages of the sites you'd like your ads to appear on. So if it's just English speaking, you can specify that. So most importantly, again here, those ads are serving as relevantly as possible. And another thing too, as you're going about all of this, and you're thinking about negative keywords and you're not quite sure, but you're interested in exploring this, you can use the search terms report just to get a signal for what people are looking for and inform your negative keyword list. All right, so let's go into some settings in our display network. So we've talked about some targeting, we've talked about the structure, where our ads can appear, but equally as important is making sure that we have our campaign settings on the campaign level set up as we'd like them. So when you're setting up your campaign, make sure that you look in the settings tab and go through each of these buttons here, such as locations, ad schedule, and devices, to specify, for example, when you want your ads to serve, where you want them to serve geographically. And again, you can exclude places. So if you want your ads to serve in certain cities and states and not other cities and states, you can specify this. Ad schedule, like I said, but also devices. So you can really control, if you want more of an emphasis on mobile versus desktop, you can specify this. So make sure that you do go into this. Otherwise, the default setting is going to be pretty broad. And equally as important, as I mentioned, as adding these things are, you can also exclude. So make sure you take this into account. Great. So you've set up your display network campaign. You've already done your settings. So we're making sure now we want to dive into our display network tab, which houses all of our wonderful targeting options. So there's a variety of ways we can target here, and they're specified in those little buttons underneath the tab there next to that red plus targeting button. So for example, we have display keywords, placements, topics, interests in remarketing, and demographics. And again, these are all really useful ways to do contextual targeting, targeting specific audiences, i.e. the demographics, as well as placements. And I spoke to manage placements a little bit before. And just to give you a couple examples, for display keywords, these are targeting or excluding keywords in a specific page. So again, want to make sure that we're targeting, specific pages for our products. Topics refers to targeting specific topics. So, people who are interested in the great outdoors, that's a topic. Interests in remarketing. This is a great way to really match your ads to specific people. So for interest categories, you can serve your ads to people who are interested in the outdoors, or affinity audiences, or people who are in the market for something. And then the other option here, which is great, is remarketing. So serving your ads to people who have already been to your website. So interest in remarketing really refers to people as well as demographics, obviously. So with demographics, we can target certain ages, genders, that type of thing. So great way to target both people as well as just interests and context. Okay, great. So let's go into a little bit more depth here on reaching our audience in the display network. Okay, so as I mentioned before, remarketing is great. It's an excellent way to really drive your ROI or your return on investment. It's one of our most popular display network campaign choices. So there's a couple ways that you can remarket. And again, remarketing, for those of you that don't know, it's serving ads to people who have already been to your website. So there's standard remarketing, which is showing ads to past visitors. And then there's the dynamic remarketing, like I talked about before. That's, I'm interested in those ski boots, and then the next day I'm on the web browsing and there is an ad for those ski boots that I was looking at, but didn't quite buy just yet. So dynamic remarketing, that's super specific and personalized to the individual and what they've been looking at specifically in the past. Whereas standard remarketing is just a bit more general. So, hey, remember our website? I'm just kind of trying to bring people back to the site in general. So this can go two different ways. Both are great options depending on who it is and what it is you want is your ultimate end goal here. And so you can also do remarketing for search as well. And just so you guys know, for remarketing, how we even generate this list is we put a little bit of little tag on the website, and this is you can find out more about this by looking in the audiences section in this shared library. And we cookie users, and over time build up a list of people who we can serve the ads back to. And lastly, there's video remarketing. This is great too. We can show ads to people who have interacted with your videos on your YouTube channel, so on and so forth. And I've mentioned this before, but make sure that you really tailor your ads. And this is a really important ingredient to success. So make sure that your ads scale with your products or services, and make sure you're using those high performance layouts. You're using real-time bid optimization, so you're making sure that you're bidding competitively and not missing out on any opportunities in the market. And also use simple yet powerful feeds to inform all of this. And so, as I mentioned before, with the dynamic remarketing, this you would need a feed in order to do this. And there's more information about this if you actually want help on the mechanics of setting this up in our help center. But again, this is a way to show those really specific products to users. And this is drawing on your feed. And this is a great way for retailers to leverage their Google Merchant Center feeds for dynamic remarketing. So if you have a shopping campaign, you're using Google Merchant Center, you should absolutely be taking advantage of this. But again, for any more specific questions or how-tos, check out our help center. It goes into how to go about setting this up specifically. All right. So next, I want to go into how we actually add these audiences to ad groups and dive into this a little bit more. So we can, like I said before, we can reach people who have an interest in your brand or product by adding audiences in our ad groups. And remember, we set our targeting on the ad group level. So you could have a specific ad group set up to just be targeting your ads to affinity or custom audiences. An affinity audience refers to people who have an affinity for a certain product. So if I love old cars, you could potentially, in your selling old cars, you could target your ads in an ad group to really harness and capture those loyal, diehard affinity audiences. You can also set up an ad group that's just focused on remarketing. And similarly, you can reach people similar to your current customers with a strong interest in your product or services through using things known as similar audiences, which is a list that can be derived from your remarketing list that essentially our system finds similar people to expand your reach and try to drive as much relevant traffic as possible. And the second option, similar to similar audiences, is in-market audiences. So these are audiences who are in the market to purchase something. So if I'm looking for ski boots and I've been browsing the web, Google would specify me as in the market for ski boots. So if you're selling ski boots, I might be on that list there. So ton of different options. Highly recommend that you match a different audience targeting to a different ad group to get the most of this. And then lastly, too, there is also demographic targeting available. So if you just sell women's hats, you simply just want to cater to women, you can also specify this in your demographic targeting. Great. So you guys have gone through the work of setting up these campaigns. There's all of these different targeting methods, but you finally created your display campaign. Now you really want to focus on measuring and optimizing your performance on the display network. Okay, so one thing to keep in mind and is pretty important when we're talking about all of this is increasing brand awareness. So brand awareness and how we can really do this is reaching our relevant audience and increasing those interactions with your brand specifically. Also building positive brand associations, increasing brand loyalty, and motivating customers. So a great way to do this is to use placement targeting to reach those most relevant audiences. And another great thing I want to put on your radar is what's known as our report editor. So as you're trying to monitor your performance and see how you're doing, we do have this feature in place that allows you to create great reports with tables and charts to really measure, your campaigns, your placements, your ad groups, your keywords, and how they're really stacking up. So you can use these reports to find out which sites your ads are appearing on using the placement report. You can track your managed placements and automatic placements. You can track things like mouse over rate to help you identify what images visitors to your site are spending time on without clicking through. This usually indicates a need for a stronger call to action. You can use these reports to measure things like user engagement through your click-through rate, as well as view-through conversions that happen when a customer sees an image or rich media ad and then later completes the conversion on your site. So there's a whole variety of reports available here for you, and you can customize it accordingly. In addition to, we certainly want you to pay attention to measuring sales and conversions. And just as a bit of background, an AdWords conversion occurs when someone clicks on your ad and performs a behavior on your site, which you consider valuable. And again, you can specify all of this when you set up your conversions. But this can be something like calling your business, making a purchase, filling out a form, something like that. And when you use AdWords, you can use AdWords to increase your conversions or sales and use our conversion tracking tool. It's a great tool. It's free. The way we do it is we help you set a little bit of code up on your website. For example, after the form submissions page, after I complete a form, there's a thank you for submitting this form page. We put the code on that page so we can measure the users that actually get to that page and therefore complete a conversion. And so it's a great tool for you to really see how your ads are adding value and how they're helping you ultimately fulfill your goals and marketing objectives here. So really great to have data to back up, your performance and get a better sense of your return on investment here. And so again, back to the report here too, some statistics that you want to keep in mind and metrics that are going to be helpful to you are things like the number of conversions and the cost per conversion. So actually how much each conversion is costing you. Things like the conversion rate, which is calculated by the number of conversions divided by the number of ad clicks. So this is a great metric to help you track how many clicks actually lead to valuable actions. And there's also great data that you can derive from keyword conversion data. So, keyword conversion data shows the same information, but based on keywords instead of ads. So by knowing this, you'll also know which keywords are the best at encouraging customers to take action. This can really help you improve your keyword list based on your findings and, of course, make smarter investments and use the best keywords ultimately. So highly recommend looking at these tools, analyzing your data, carving out a little bit of time just to see how you're doing, and more importantly, where you can improve. Great. So in the spirit of evaluating our ad performance, we really want to make sure that you look at it both on the account level, the campaign level, and the ad group level, as AdWords is organized in those three levels. So Something on the ad group level might look very different from on the account level if you're looking at conversions, for example. So make sure that you go through those different levels and see how you're stacking up. And more importantly, what might be doing well and which areas might not be doing well. So for example, if you have an ad group that's targeting affinity audiences, but isn't really leading to any conversions and is costing you a lot of money, you might want to kind of reevaluate that. So make sure you check all of the levels for any sort of gaps there. And you can look at each of these in regard to your KPIs, your key performance metrics. And the great things about the AdWords interface is that you can customize or view your performance data depending on what it is you want to look at. So in the interface here, you can add columns to get more data in addition to our great report tool. Great. So going back to just overall campaign optimization, want to make sure that you guys remember these things. The first one, there was a switchover recently, so we are requiring that you use HTML5 instead of Flash ads, so definitely don't forget that. Make sure that you have an organized campaign with a good plan. Campaign structure is everything, so making sure that your campaign is organized into relevant, targeted ad groups is really important. This organization is not only going to help your campaign do the best that it can, but it's also going to help you in terms of your own organization of this system. So that's critical. The next is to write great, compelling ads. So I always say, think of yourself as the user. What drives you to click on ads? So making sure that those are really as good as they can be, and put yourself in your user's position if you're considering, if you're not really sure what to include in your ad copy. The next is to set an ad rotation to match your goal. So you can rotate your ads accordingly. You can try out different ad copy. And as I said before, users gravitate towards different ad copy, so that's quite important. And really get in there and monitor and adjust your bids. We have a lot of incredible flexible bid strategies, like I mentioned, but it's also really important for you to be in there and monitoring it. So in adjusting your max cost per click or your CPA accordingly, as the market can fluctuate and those costs can go up and down. Really important too is to make sure that you install conversion tracking. Like I said, conversions tracking really helps us put data behind our performance. So we can really attribute conversions to our actual ads or keywords. So we can say, hey, this ad actually resulted in 10 conversions last week. So it's a free tool. If you're not already using it, use it. If you need help setting it up, give us a call at 1-866-2-GOOGLE or check out our help center. We have tons of articles and resources to help you set that up. And like I said too, make sure that you test different ad types and compare performance. Different users gravitate towards different ads, so make sure that you have some variety there. And on that note too, I always recommend, it's one of our best practices, have more than one ad per ad group. Experiment, try different things, iterate. So you may find that some ads are really successful and some aren't. So you can pause those less successful ads that aren't maybe driving conversions. It's all about trial and error. So in the theme of display targeting optimization, I just want to go into a couple more targeting and bid options here. So target CPA bidding is great if we really want to drive those conversions. And CPA bidding relies on historical information, historical conversion data. So you absolutely need conversions in the account for this to work. So if you're interested in using it, set up conversion tracking, give it a few weeks, even a month, so we have the kind of data before you can even consider this. But using this data, our system will automatically find optimal equivalent CPA. So it's a great way, it's a great automated system that helps really drive conversions. And it goes back to this pay per click without manual adjustments. And again, you need conversions before even using this. And then with that said, there are then two more specific ways you can target. So In addition, we have things you can specify whether you want to be more conservative with your targeting or aggressive. And a conservative targeting refers to when you need to maintain like a current cost per click, whereas aggressive is more you want as many conversions as possible. So if you don't really care about that cost per conversion, cost per click, you're just concerned about conversions in general, you might want to opt for aggressive. So again, many more ways to get incredibly specific and cater depending on what it is you're looking to do. All right, so we've covered a lot of content here. There's a ton of different ways we can take advantage of the display network and ad copies, targeting, settings, tools, you name it. We just covered a lot. So my goal here is to really ramp you guys up for this exam. So I want to kind of go over some nuts and bolts here of what the exam is going to entail and just give you some resources to set you guys up and keep studying. So the exam is 120 minutes in length. It's 100 questions, and you need an 80% to pass. And then assuming you pass, it's valid for 12 months. So we've covered a lot of content, so you may have some questions or things like, hey, how do I set up this conversion tracking? Our AdWords Help Center article, our AdWords Help Center has incredible articles. I work at Google and I use the Help Center all the time. So incredibly detailed information for each of the product or feature that I've gone over today. So make sure that you study up. We recommend you take advantage of the display study guide. And this is going to have a great overview and really help get you guys ramped up for the exam all the more. And lastly, when you're feeling ready, you're feeling confident, definitely recommend that you go to google.com/partners to take the exam. And remember, in order to become certified, you must pass the fundamental exams and one other exam, such as mobile, video, etc. Great. Well, we've covered a lot of content today. I want to get into some of the questions that you guys have submitted here. So give me a second here. I'll have a look. All right. The first question is, can we save these slides? So the answer is yes, you will get an email with these slides so you can use them as an additional resource. So important question here. We know we want to make sure you guys have all the resources possible to pass this exam. I've got a second question here about remarketing. So since so many people block cookies and tracking now, how effective is remarketing? So certainly any user has the option to clear their cache and cookies, but you would be surprised how many people don't do that. So remarketing is an excellent option. And to be honest, the fact that people can clear their cache and cookies shouldn't be a reason not to do it. It actually only accounts for a very small percentile. So I would strongly recommend doing it. You'd be surprised how many visitors do come to your site and how quickly that list can build up. But it is a great question to ask because we do honor those user preferences so people are able to clear their cache and cookies at any point. All right, great question. So what two targeting methods work best together? That's a great question. So there are different targeting methods like display keywords, remarketing, managed placements, topics. So there isn't really a straightforward answer to this as each campaign is different and each marketing objective is different. And it depends on who it is you're looking to target. So one thing I will say is I see people having too narrow of topic targeting. So in an ad group, if you have remarketing, display keywords, and placements, you're basically telling our system, I only want my ad to serve when all of these stars align. And while that might sound good, the reality is that's incredibly narrow. So make sure that you're not being too narrow with your targeting. That's why we recommend that people have a different targeting option per ad group, especially if they're starting out and just want to get a sense of which is going to work best. But on a really basic level, the one that I see most often that is effective is display keywords and placements. So if there are certain display keywords that you're really certain about and certain websites you want to show up on, those two can work great together. All right, so can you control placements? great question. Yes, you can. If you're confident there's a great site you want your ad to serve on, you can add that as a managed placement. Otherwise, and keep this in mind, it will be more automated. But again, as you're going through your campaigns and measuring success and seeing how you're stacking up, we highly recommend that you look on what sites you are serving on. Some people who don't specify placements can be surprised and say, hey, I don't want to actually be serving on butterflies.com. That's not relevant at all to my product or service. So make sure that you check your placements so you exclude placements accordingly. Well, that about sums it up here today, guys. Thanks so much. I know this was a lot of content, but I can't emphasize it enough. Check out our resources. You can watch this deck again. We'll provide you guys with the slides. And if you have any questions at all, feel free to reach out to our support team. And most importantly, I wish you guys the best of luck with this exam and a wonderful rest of your day. Bye.